All right, what is up, everyone? It is the MLB DFS strategy show from Osmo.com. I'm Jake Hari, joined by EMAC this morning. Hopefully, our connection stays green, as I'm seeing right now, and we get some people in here and get some chatters. We've got a 9-game slate. EMAC, what do you think? We're going to talk a lot about pitchers, I'm sure, on this slate because we both like to do that a lot. So what do you think about the slate overall?
I'm pouring one out. It's the end of our season. It's a 9-gamer. It's intriguing. Sadly, there are only 3 teams left that are really vying for any playoff spots, and 2 of them are not on our slate. That would be the Cubs and now I'm blanking on the other team, but the Dodgers. They both play early today. We do have Colorado though, and they are going against the Nationals and Strasburg, and they need to keep winning. They got to whittle down that magic number. So those are the 3 teams playing for anything. They may know a little bit more where they stand today after the early games. I don't think that's really going to affect a lot of stuff. I don't think they'll mail it in tomorrow. Anybody that loses out will probably mail in their games. The other interesting thing about all of this is tomorrow there will be all of the games starting between 3 and I think 3:15. And as we've seen, Sunday is now dwarfed with the NFL, and Fantasy Draft does not even do a contest. Yahoo runs a $1,000 contest, and last week on Sunday, the 2 big sites combined had less than $70,000 in guaranteed prize pools. Jake,
wow,
very sad.
Yeah. So we were just talking before we got on. Are you going to be playing the showdown slates for MLB in the wild card games?
I don't know. I am. Here's the funny thing. I'm not really a fan of the showdown slates, but I like them for the larger games like, the Super Bowl. And that's about it. They weren't too bad for basketball, but just the overlap is so wildly high unless you're willing to get a little bit silly. Now, the fun part is I have been writing we've switched up format. So for the single game slates for NFL for Thursday night, Sunday night, and Monday night, I am writing up each game with an eye on how to play it as a single game contest. And you know what? This is the perfect week to do that. We had an awesome game on Thursday with so much scoring with Minnesota and the Rams. And then we have Sunday night is Pittsburgh and Baltimore. And then Monday night is, I'm blanking on it already. But the 3 games are 3 of the 5 highest projected point totals. So those games, it's fun. When it's a defensive struggle, it's not. So to answer your question, yes, I will probably dabble a little bit. I think what we'll want to do for a strategy is find the teams you think you're going to have a quick hook with their starters. And as we've seen the last 2 years, a lot of these teams just plan on running their starters out twice through the lineup for 4 innings and then bring in somebody else. It's not like somebody's going to bulldog it all the way to the end like they used to 15, 20 years ago. So that's where the real strategy is going to come in. How can you figure out who is going to be the pitching guy that's going to come in? Because sometimes it'll be like that 5th starter who would never get a shot, but they may come in for 2 innings. So you'll want to look at that. It gets a little tricky. The last little thought is they go back down to their playoff roster. So right now we're at 40-person rosters. The playoff roster is going to be 25. So just like the regular season. So you'll want to keep an eye on who they keep and who they bounce, because a team like Houston, that team is super deep. They're going to be sitting some players that are not going to be happy. So anyway,
that was a good breakdown. You want to talk about what do we got? 9-game main slate now? I think we got enough people in here. I don't think we're going to have a huge crowd. So
there's 2 1:00 games that are only available on the all-day slate or on Fantasy Draft. There's a 6:00 game that's on some of the earlier slates. FanDuel and DraftKings are running a 4:00 slate as well as their late slate. But if you want to talk about that, we got projections for it. We'll be in Slack, but we're going to focus on the main slate here. So without further ado, it's with a heavy heart, Jake, that we start our final MLB show of the season. Let's go with some intriguing pitching options here. We have the Atlanta Braves, Philadelphia Phillies, a 7.5 implied run total. The only game that has a double-digit run total is exactly none of them. They're all pretty low tonight. Now, that's for 2 factors. One, adequate pitching, and two, it's a little bit cooler than it has been for quite some time. So up in Philly, it's going to be 70 degrees. We have Anibal Sanchez taking on Aaron Nola. Sanchez checks in at 8,300 on DraftKings, Nola at 10.5. The real question is, and that's going to be the continuing question throughout the show, who's going to pitch deep? I think both of these guys will. Now, Atlanta's in the playoffs, but Anibal Sanchez is at best their third starter. So I don't think that he'll be short-changed in any event today. So we do like him for 5 or 6 innings against the Phillies, who have been striking out a ton. On the other side, we have Nola, who should be good for about 90, 95 pitches. So I'm okay with that. It all depends on how weak the Atlanta roster is going to be, because, of course, they'll be giving some guys the day off. And we saw Freddie Freeman just feasting last night. I can kind of see them giving him the night off and just going out on a high note before the playoffs.
Yeah, that's kind of exactly how I'm thinking. And I didn't write up any of these top guys because I'd rather not pay up. But if I am paying up above 10K, I think Nola's going to be the guy I have the most exposure to. We obviously know he's a phenomenal pitcher. He's going to be at home. He is going to get, I think we both agree, a pretty watered-down lineup for Atlanta. And, I mean, there's just nothing, like, the price is right. You know, he's probably underpriced, as most people are on the slate. So, yeah, I just have nothing bad to say about Nola. There's no, like, pitch count that we've seen, like we've seen for Paxton already. But, yeah, this is my guy if I'm paying up today.
All right. Talk a little bit about Anibal Sanchez. I mean, he's been pretty a bit of a revolution this season. This was a guy we used to pick on a ton, and here he is. He's going to be fighting today. Depending on how his day goes, he could end the season with a sub-3 ERA, which is surprising. This will be his 24th start, so it's not like he's been sneaking in on this. He's kept the home runs relatively in check, allowing just 15 across his 130 innings. He's getting a strikeout an inning, just a tick shy, literally a tick shy. It's like 99 or it's 0.99. I'm rounding up. We're giving him a strikeout per inning. Relatively solid. I like him today. I like the price, and I don't think a lot of people are going to be going there because I think the slight misnomer of Philadelphia being more of a run-producing park tends to carry the day. The one thing you want to remember, again, weather is down, and Philadelphia is more, they do better with homers than actual scoring for some reason there. But I'm okay with Sanchez on what is going to be about a player pool of 6 pitchers is my guess.
Yeah, I think that's kind of where I'm going to stick in as well. I don't love Sanchez's price, but again, got to kind of remember that there are going to be some value bats that open up. Could be on his own team. Not that you really want to target against Nola, but just there's going to be value bats all over the place. Names that you probably don't recognize. I'm a little worried. He just faced these Phillies at home, and he only had a 5% swinging strike rate. Now he did have a really good chase rate, well over 40%. But yeah, Sanchez, like, this resurgence is just kind of weird. He's missing bats. He's limiting home runs. Only 15 on the season. Like, that's a pretty respectable number for a guy that's started 23. This will be his 24th game. I mean, nothing really bad to say about Anibal. I don't want a full stack against him, but I do like Carlos Santana and Rhys Hoskins quite a bit. They're just way too cheap on this slate. Like, they should never be 3,900. Rhys Hoskins should never be 4,300 against anyone, really. He hits righties extremely well. So those are the 2 guys I like. I don't know if I'll end up with any Sanchez. And yeah, this one is mostly just about Nola and maybe a couple Phillies bats for me.
All right, then let's keep on keeping on here. Another game, intriguing pitching option. I'm not going to say options. Hell, I guess I am. We have Trevor Richards. We have Steven Matz. Another 7.5 over/under. This one's in Citi Field. Again, it's going to be 70 at first pitch. There are no precipitation issues and no wind issues throughout any of our 9 games tonight. So it's in general going to be a little bit cooler than normal, but everything should be a full go. Richards, I think I will just kind of consider him as a tournament option. Now, here's why I'm going to consider him as a tournament option. I think the Mets, now that they're facing the Marlins, who are out of it, they're going to give David Wright some ceremonial time there at third base before he finally retires. We should see Dominic Smith And then we're looking at Jose Reyes. That bottom third of the lineup is pretty weak. So if Richards can navigate Nimmo, McNeil, Conforto, and Bruce, he's in for a decent start. So he's in SP2 consideration for me. Matz is actually an SP1 consideration for me. This is where we throw pricing out the window. He's 67 on DraftKings. I think he's going to be very popular. He is someone that has been much improved this season and is someone that I have taken a liking to a lot. But if we look at his strikeout rate against fellow lefties, it is just 18%. Against righties, it's at 24%. Adequate, I think, is the word we've got there. But the price brings him back around into the conversation with me, because I think you can do a pairing of him and Nola, and you could argue about who is your SP1 on it. But just because Nola has had good moments and bad moments. But Matz is someone that's going to be in my pool of 6 pitchers.
Yeah, both of these guys I'm definitely looking at for GPPs. If I'm making 150, I'm definitely going to have a bunch of both. Now, Matz is the obvious play here, I think. 6,700, just too cheap. He just gets no respect from DK. He's just regularly down here. And yes, the plate discipline stuff may not be as good as you'd like to see it. And I've been stubbornly avoiding him for a lot of the season. But he shouldn't be 6,700 in the spot against a team with a 3.3 run total. I agree. I think we're going to see some chalk there once we get ownership projections out. And it seems like a pretty safe spot for him. I mean, you're worried about Real Muto. You're worried about maybe Peter O'Brien. He's got some power. And Starlin Castro's, whatever, league average against lefties. But not a very daunting Miami lineup. So, Matz, I certainly understand it. If he's going to be 30+%, I'm probably going to come in underweight. Richards is, he's got huge potential here. Last 2 starts, 15% and 19% swinging strike rates against Washington and Cincinnati. Not the easiest matchups there. Against Cincinnati, he had a near 50% chase rate. I mean, that changeup is just devastating to both sides. And you saw the results, 7 innings, 9 strikeouts. He's just going to be a really good pitcher. I mean, he will struggle with power when you're throwing changeups to righties. If it's not completely perfect, it's going to get crushed by good hitters. But a lot of lefties in this lineup for the Mets, which I love for Richards. I love him for 7,700, and I don't think he's going to be all that popular.
All right. We may have lost our stream. Let's see what the chat says. Oh, no, it looks like it's okay. I think, anyways, they'll let us know. The other thing we want to think about with Matz is you and I were both shocked when we saw Zach Godley's price. Now, Godley will be going against, we'll get to him, but he's going to be going against the Dodgers for the 5th time. A little bit of a mixed bag. Godley's only 6,200. So I think that helps siphon away some of the ownership there from Matz. And additionally, I think that makes Richards much more intriguing play, because I'll be shocked if Richards is more than 10 or 15% on the 9-game slate this evening.
Yeah. 15%? Really? Wow.
I think so.
Okay. Wow. I mean, if he's at 15%, then sure. I guess you're right. Godley will certainly get some attention at that price. He's another one, just should never be that cheap. And Cahill too, I would argue, but I don't think anybody's going to be on Cahill. So there are pivots. Whoever is the mega chalk, I think you just probably go underweight on them and just spread your exposure around, because these guys are all pretty similar to me, especially Matz and Godley in their spots.
All right, we've got our next game here is Detroit, the Brewers, 8.5 over under here. We have a couple of southpaws going against each other. Daniel Norris, Wade Miley. So this one is going to depend tremendously on what lineups come out here. I'm trying, and I closed a bunch of my tabs, but let me look and see. I want to see if Milwaukee is clinched their particular luck, or if they are in the mix. While I'm looking at that up, any interest in Daniel Norris, assuming we get a mediocre Brewers lineup?
Yeah, I mean, it would only be if we see a bad lineup, I think. I don't really see the need to go to Norris when you've got all these options at the 6K level. I mean, if you go to him and a few teams roll out bad lineups, I mean, you're just not even going to be able to spend your salary. So I don't prefer him over a Matz. I don't prefer him over a Godley. I don't even think I prefer him over a Cahill, even if the Brewers roll out the B or C lineup. So
all right, they won't. So here, and this is what I wanted to check on. So the Brewers can still get the NL Central by beating the Tigers, and they conceivably could force a one regular season playoff as a tiebreaker on Monday. So they're going to be rolling out their ace lineup. So and I should have had that marked before. So I think we'll just be Xing out Norris.
basically, I mean, who is the stronger pitching staff? Because in a one game sample, like, yeah, your starter could get rocked, but if you have a sick bullpen, they could just come in and shut it down for the rest of the game, like the Yankees have the ability to. So if the Yankees get a lead, I mean, well, Oakland too, they've got a sick bullpen, so that game is going to be interesting. How many, I wonder if there's an over-under for how many we use in that game, because it's got to be like 10 plus. I mean, you're going to see so many arms going from both sides if either of the starters get in trouble. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. So Milwaukee is going to roll out a real lineup. You see a 5.4 run total. There's just no way I get to Daniel Norris. Just way too tough of a matchup with guys like Lorenzo Cain in there, Christian Yelich raking the entire season, MVP season possibly, and then Braun is 4,700. I like that against Norris quite a bit. So I actually like some Brewers bats if all the normal guys are in.
Concur, and I'm just calling that up now. And against lefties, let's start off with Yelich, who is phenomenal. Aguilar, Braun, who's had his moments this season, including last night or 2 nights ago, he had a two home run game. So there's going to be a lot to like here from that aspect. So again, those are key things to look at, and I've got the courtesy of ESPN, the MLB clinching tracker page open, so we will have it at our fingertips for any of the other games. Let's move along here. We've got the White Sox and the Twins. Carlos Rodon, I'm going to have to say no. The talent has been there throughout the season, but track record and current form are garbage. Even though he's facing somewhat of a watered-down lineup, I know we're going to get a fair amount of Twins in our crunches, is my guess, just because their pricing is once again phenomenal. And they are going against a lefty, so that means our lineups crunches are essentially going to be pre-populated with one Logan Forsythe.
Oh, God. My worst nightmare.
Yeah, facepalm. But we have Kyle Gibson, who has been a little bit hit or miss. That's someone that Adam and Laffy like to talk about a lot. They wish that he would throw his splitter more and do a little bit better with his pitch mix. But in any event, we should see him for 110 pitches. This is his last start of the season. He's gone over 110 in 2 of his last 3. And in 7 of his last, in his last 10, he's gone above 90 for every time. And he's been in 100 in 6 of those, and 110 plus in 4 of them. So we're going to get our point per dollar. He's one of the other guys that's in my circle of trust this evening because I like righties going against the White Sox. The only person that sort of makes me slightly nervous is Daniel Palka, but is that really that nervous? I don't think so. What do you got here for the fighting Jakes versus the Chi Sox?
Yeah, going back to Gibson one last time for the season, just has had a really strong 2018, and now he gets one of the best matchups. Looking for him to close out on a high note, like above average swinging strike rate, above average chase rate. His slider is one of the best pitches in baseball, especially over the second half of the season, just getting so many whiffs. And the White Sox also have 5 players that strike out over 27% of the time against righties this year. So it's just everything lines up for a really great matchup for Gibson. You see a few righties in there. I'm not really worried about the lefties either. So you get like guys like Moncada and Polka strike out a ton. So there is, I think, legit 8 to 10K potential here for Kyle Gibson. I think he's a little bit underpriced, especially when you factor in the value that you're going to get. It's 45 degrees here. It's cold. Like, it's not, like, there's no sun. It's going to be really good pitching conditions. So Yeah, give me some Gibson. I love him here.
All right, let's have fun with our ISO. This is where I have something I've started doing on the shows with you because it makes me laugh. If we combined over the last 2 seasons the top 4 projected hitters of the Twins, that would be Joe Mauer, Polanco, Forsythe, and Grossman, and they have a 350 isolated power. Tyler Austin himself has a 333 against lefties. Just saying, as these guys come swarming in, as the Twins just come swarming into our lineups via the cruncher, just know it's going to be a bunch of Punch and Judy hitters in there. So your mileage may vary. You may want to apply a ceiling on what you're doing here, just because, as we've harped on, the weather is not going to be helping these runners or these scoring here. So just wanted to point that out. But we've got Astudillo. What do you think of him? I mean, here's a guy, I know he struck out, let's see, in his last game, but so far in the majors, he has 84 at-bats. How many strikeouts and walks combined do you think he has?
I bet he has 3 strikeouts and walks combined.
He has 4. He struck out last night, but he did get 4 RBI. He had a well-placed double, and he had a single. Was that last night? Oh, that was 2 nights ago. Sorry, that was 2 nights ago. That was on Thursday. So he's someone that's fun to look at and talk about, just because the ball's always going to be in play. That's something we like to see.
Oh, I absolutely love. Like, it's so simple, but it's like, okay, if the ball's in play, like, yeah, bad things can happen. You can line out and do a double play or whatever, but like, I want my stacks to constantly, like, I want that I play to constantly have the ball in play. It's such a simple thing, but people don't realize, like, so anytime there's like a low strikeout pitcher, I'm always looking for reasons to play the stack against them, because it's baseball. There's a ton of variance. Anything can happen. I mean, for God's sakes, the ball can hit the base and you all of a sudden end up with a double when you should have grounded out. So Astudillo, he's really fun to watch, actually, too. Just watch him hit, because you just know he's not going to strike out. I mean, very, very rarely. You mentioned Tyler Austin, 4,500 I think is a fair price here. Just crushes lefties. So him, Astudillo, and then maybe Jorge Polanco for 4,600 are guys that I like a little bit against Rodon. I wish the Twins had more speed, because Rodon really struggles at holding runners. I'm trying to see if there's anyone with stolen base. Well, Polanco's got some upside there, but he's only had 2 in his last month. So, yeah, that's about it.
All right, on to our next game. Gotta love all these interdivision games. We have Corey Kluber going against the Kansas City Royals. This will be his 5th start against the Royals. He's got 25 innings against them, 25 strikeouts. He's only allowed 2 home runs. I feel like I'm a little bit surprised that he's even allowed any home runs against the Royals here. That must have been before they dumped all of their good players. So we've got the question is, how long do we think Kluber is going to go? I think we can consider him a 6-inning guy, and that's probably his high water mark. I think if it's 6 efficient, or if it's about 95 pitches, I'm thinking he's going to get about 6 innings, would be my guess. Now, in those 6 innings, he can get a lot of strikeouts. He could flirt with 8 to 10 strikeouts here. I don't know where I'm going to end up on Kluber. He is in my pool of players I like, but we're going to talk about some hitting, and I don't know how I'm going to get those guys, and that'll be from the Coors Field game. So Kluber may be a casualty of the salary cap. What is your estimation for how much he's going to pitch this season?
If he goes if we got word that he can go 85 or 90, I think I would have interest in playing him. Like, he's going to be in my player pool regardless, even if he can go 5 innings. Like, I legitimately think he could get 8 to 10 strikeouts in 5 innings against this team. Especially that bottom of the lineup is pretty brutal. He's decent at holding runners, I know, so you're not super worried about Merrifield and Mondesi and Gordon just running all over the place. And then he's 11K, but thinking about the value we have on this slate, I mean, that really makes him like a 10K pitcher. That's obviously an underpriced. It's decent pitching weather here, under 70 degrees. It's not Minnesota, but it's not super hot. I mean, I was thinking more like 75 pitches. That's just kind of the number I had in my head last night when I was looking at this. But if we get 10 to 15 more pitches out of him than what I expected, then I'm gonna have to bump him up in projection a little bit.
Yeah, and I think that's one where we want to say he's the upside is not really there, but how many safe pitchers are we really looking at today? And he's clearly somebody just on raw points alone that could, be top 2 or 3 this evening, even in a somewhat abbreviated outing. So something that definitely has to be considered. When we look at his numbers over the last 2 years, they're outstanding. I know he had a few shaky moments earlier this season. Well, shaky for someone that you expect to be a Cy Young contender, but he has a 2.9 xFIP. He's striking out 30% combined over the last 2 years, lefties and righties, just allowing very little power. Hardly any line drives, excellent ground ball rate. I mean, it's at 45%, which is solid, but the fly ball rate is just 33%. Yeah. That's pretty phenomenal. So that's stuff we like to see there. On the hitting side of things, Jake Junis has turned things around. He was someone that Laffy used to like to make the joke that the home runs come in threes with Junis. He has really harnessed and put everything together. If we look at him, he's faltering a touch down the stretch, and if you look at his last 3 games, you're like, oh, that's not great. And he's allowed 5 home runs over those 3 games. But prior to that, let's see, he went 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, 8 games where he allowed 2 total home runs. That's pretty impressive for a guy who's perennially amongst the league leaders in home runs allowed. Now, all that said, what are we looking at for the Indians here from the hitting perspective? Because they're not cheap, and they most certainly are not there's potential for pinch hit risks.
I mean, Lindor, Brantley, or Ramirez, I think, are the guys I'm probably going to stick to here. Junis, he still will have power struggles here. 5 home runs allowed in his last 3 starts. I mean, he's going to miss bats for the most part, but this is not a team that it's easy to miss bats against. So I'm just really worried about those top 3 with him. I will be playing those guys as 2-mans, or if I go 4-3-1, that's a really nice 3-man stack to have. You mentioned the pinch hit risk. That's certainly in the back of my mind, but you are getting a discount on these guys as well. So I like that DK did that. You might get 3 at bats, maybe 4 if you're lucky, but that's if they're really, really getting to Junis. So just keep that in the back of your mind. They're probably going to get pinch hit for.
All right. Now, they in chat, let me give proper props. Todd Strong says, hey, Evan Lowney, what do you think there's still a chance he goes a little bit longer trying to win the Cy Young? And my thought is probably not, just because I think playoffs are more important. These guys are locked in because they've won the Central. They've got a worse record than everybody else in the playoffs, but at least they're going to be going on to the next, or they're not going to have to worry about being on the wild card. So I don't think they're going to throw him out there a ton, but it's a valid point here. Where do you think so let's talk quickly AL Cy Young. Blake Snell, out of nowhere, 21 wins. We got to consider that, along with a sub-2 ERA and a sub-1 WHIP and 211 strikeouts and 175 innings. Damn! Now he's going today in that 6 o'clock game, so we won't get to play him. But his numbers compare favorably with Kluber. Kluber's got 20 wins himself, and I know that's not a great barometer and metric, but I just want to point out how few 20-game winners there are anymore. Mm-hmm. So, but the vagaries of baseball, I just look at Jake DeGrom, where he allowed 4 runs in 1 game and 3 or less in all the rest of his starts this year? Yep. So if they would have scored, 3.7 runs per game, he would have won 80% of them or something like that, 90% of them.
Yeah, I mean, you can only do so much when you're pitching, right? That's why wins are kind of an arbitrary stat. I think that most baseball fans are coming around on that. The people that vote on this, like the writers and stuff, I don't know if they are with that. I don't know why, but like Blake Snell, I think should win. But it's like Snell's been ridiculous, just absolutely ridiculous. Like a bunch of spiked starts, like 10 plus strikeouts all the time. Swinging strike rate, I doubt any of the voters look at that, but he's one of the tops in the league. Gets a ton of chases. I mean, just so efficient at times, and he hasn't really had bad starts. I think he's had one in Minnesota, but that was really it. I mean, Snell is just fantastic. For my money, he would be the Cy Young. What about you?
Yes, I think so. I wouldn't. And here we haven't even mentioned the word Jason Verlander. So there's some good candidates this year. I think amongst those, I don't think I'll be disappointed in any of this year in either the senior circuit or the junior circuit, because the pitching has just been that great at the top, and it's been nicely spread out. Now I'll be sad if Scherzer doesn't get it, but can we really deny DeGrom's season this year?
Right. Yeah. Absurd.
We'll see. Anyway, so this one, your mileage may vary. Eunice has been good. Looks like he's tuckered out a little bit down the stretch here, falling into some bad habits again. Kind of depends what sort of lineup we're going to see here for Cleveland. If we get a sitting, one of their three stalwarts in Lindor, Ramirez, or E5, I think we're pretty good, and we start to consider Eunice here at 7,200. But don't forget, then that lineup's still going to include Kipnis, Alonso, Donaldson, Brantley. It's a tough lineup, but 7,200 is an intriguing tournament pivot, depending on how strong the chalk gets on some of the Matts, the Godleys, etc. Moving on to our next game here. Your mileage may vary on this one, so we'll hit it quickly. It's not in all of the slates. It's Houston and Baltimore. So if you're on, just depending on what slate you're on, you're going to get the second game here. It's going to be Dallas Keuchel and Jeffrey Ramirez. Houston has clinched where they're going to be and what they need to do, but their lineup is so deep. Jeffrey Ramirez is not really an opener. He's actually a starter, but he'll probably only go about 4 innings. I don't really want any part of this game just because I don't want to take the Orioles against Keuchel. And I'm still worried about some pinch hit risk or some watered down lineups with the Astros. And I don't think this is on the main DK slate either.
It's not. No.
So any thoughts on this one? Yeah, just it's on. I'm in a bunch of the all day contests already, so I have been looking at this one. But.
No, yeah, definitely good to at least mention it. I know Keuchel is on a pitch count. I cannot remember what it was, and I was trying to find it as you were talking, but it was pretty low, so I don't think he's in play for me. Let me see if I can find this quick. And then,
I want to say I would guess it's about 70.
I think that's what it was. Let me see here if I can find this. 2 to 4 innings Saturday.
Oh goodness.
Yeah, so
that's...
he, I mean,
70, cross him off.
Yeah, you gotta X him out. So that's what, 50 pitches at most. 60 maybe, but yeah, don't play Keuchel. And then Jeffrey Ramirez, I actually don't think he's terrible, but I agree on the pinch hit risk. I think you're going to see very abbreviated stints for these top guys for the Astros, so I just wouldn't mess with it. It's a funky game, doubleheader too. The lineup may be bad to start with, so nothing here for me.
All right, now we're into the good stuff here. We got 4 more games, starting off with Coors Field, our highest run total of the night, just at 9.5. It's going to be about 80 degrees here at first pitch. They are starting these games a little earlier than normal. This will be a 6:10 start local time. So that one is, because it gets cold in the high altitude once the sun goes down, Jake. So they've bumped these games up just a little bit. They did the same thing with yesterday's start. But we've got Steven Strasburg, who I have one MLB jersey ever in my life, and I got it as a birthday gift. And it's Steven Strasburg. And he's just an infuriating pitcher. I never know what to do with him. I'm not going to play him tonight, but can we really attack him at all? Because he's like, if I said, okay, I'm going to go after Scherzer, I would say I want Dahl or Blackman. Strasburg's, for the most part, been splits neutral for his career, meaning there's not really one side that gets to him. He either loses off because he gets behind in the counts, and then he likes to use his fastball to announce his presence with authority. And everybody knows it's coming, and that's been his real Achilles heel for the last few seasons. And he's gotten a little bit better about it. I don't know if they beat it into the heads of his catchers, but I don't think I'm going to go with Strasburg. But I'm not doing cartwheels for any of the Rockies.
I'm not doing cartwheels either. I'm right there with you. I mean, Strasburg has really impressed lately. Are you at the point where could you play Strasburg here? I mean, I wasn't looking at targeting bats against him, but if I'm not doing that and all these bats are going to have ownership, then shouldn't we at least consider playing him?
Yeah. I'm going to say the only reason I'm going to say no is I think it's a little fancy play syndrome, and it's Colorado's still fighting for their playoff lives. Now, the Nats they're out of it, so they were having fun playing spoiler a little bit here, but I still don't think I can go against Strasburg. Let's see. I'm just looking at his recent game logs. Walks have been a little bit of an issue, but not overly so. He's got a 3.8 ERA. He's been in double-digit points pretty much his last half dozen starts. Beat the hell out of Miami and Philly. Colorado doesn't strike out like Miami and Philly, and that's the problem.
Yeah. Maybe that's too cute playing an almost 9K pitcher in Coors. I may leave him in my player pool just to have some extra exposure, and I don't like this range outside of like Gibson. So just as another guy to have in this range, so not all of my exposure in this range is to Gibson. I probably will have 10% Strasburg, 8% Strasburg, something like that. Nothing crazy, but if you off, I'll be over the field on him because I don't really love the Rockies bats. I think if you're home run hunting, maybe an Arenado Story or David Dahl, who's just been insane lately. But that's really it. I don't really want a full stack against Strasburg. He's impressed me quite a bit lately.
Yeah. On the other side, we have John Gray, who has been mercurial this season. Trips down to the minors, was the unluckiest pitcher for a while. Then he was the luckiest pitcher for a while, and now your mileage may vary. Hey, in his last start, he crushed the Phillies. 7 strong innings, allowed a solo shot. That was it. 7 strikeouts. Game before that in L.A., -10 DraftKings points. He allowed 6 runs, 2 home runs in 2 innings. Yikes. We're going to get him somewhere down the middle. I like the Nationals this evening. For me, the Nationals will be a full stack, or I will probably take them out of my rules. I'm hoping for a bit of an implosion with Gray. Again, the problem is because the Rockies are in the playoff hunt, if Gray even struggles, they're going to go to the bullpen for a fresher arm. They don't have the greatest bullpen, but now we start to worry a little bit about platoon advantages, and each of these guys comes in for 1 or 2 innings. That just the fresh arm is going to hurt the guys. The good thing about the Nationals, Harper, Soto, Rendon, all good against lefties and righties. So that's your core key group of players that you want, and then perhaps we get a lucky hitter in there. But for this being a Coors Field game, somewhat tepid on this one this evening for me.
I think you're going to see pretty low ownership on the Nationals here, and I don't know if people will get to Gray, but they're going to see this 4.6 implied total for the Nationals and maybe be off of them because they're just so expensive, and the guys you want at least. And then as far as Gray goes, I don't know with him. I'm not going to act like I can figure this guy out because I can't. Like you mentioned, went down to the minors. Okay, that was wrong. He shouldn't have gone down to the minors. He was getting BABIP to death. He was literally one of the best pitchers in the MLB for the first few months, but just was having some terrible batted ball luck. Comes back, velocity's down. Now he's getting lucky. Now he's all of a sudden not missing bats and starts. And then he has this start against the Phillies where he goes 7 innings, 7 strikeouts. He was sitting on a huge lead, so I don't know if that helped him mentally or whatever, but against the Dodgers, he had a 0% swinging strike rate, legitimately 0, and he got rocked. Velocity was back up last start. I have no idea what to do with this guy. So, assuming the Nationals have low ownership, I'm just taking the bats. I cannot get to playing Gray. And I'm just playing the ownership game here. So if the Nats are low owned like I expect them to be, then I'll have well over the field on them.
All right. I want to see who they have as their listed pitcher tomorrow. This would be the Rockies, because this is all right. So they're undecided for tomorrow, which is no surprise here. I was trying to figure out, because I'm looking at their bullpen here, and Wade Davis, Scott Oberg, and Adam Ottavino have both pitched the last 2 nights, so they're out of the picture. So I'm going to say some names here. And you're going to scratch your head. Yency Almonte, Sam Howard, DJ Johnson, Jake McGee. Okay, I've heard of Jake McGee. Chris Rusin, I've heard of him. And Brian Shaw, I've heard of him. Yikes. What I think we could see potentially, because this is, win or go home at this point, we could see them bringing in someone like Freeland. My guess is they'll bring Marquez back tomorrow if they're still alive and still in it. But they could bring in Freeland out of the bullpen here.
Didn't he just go yesterday?
Well, that's what I thought. And I'm looking at DraftKings game log. They only have it updated through the 23rd. I thought he pitched.
I think he maybe yesterday or Thursday. I can't remember which one it was, but.
All right. Now this is embarrassing. So we got him, but you see where I'm going with this line of thinking is it's kitchen sink time. Yep. I doubt it would be Marquez, but it could be literally anybody else that has had at least 3 days rest. And I'm thinking not like he's going to come in long relief, but at this point it's best arm available. I just read you a bunch of names that are definitely not best arm available. So
right.
I'm just trying to gamesmanship here and what I would do if I was forced with that. So sorry that you guys had to see me do that live on air, but these are the things that you try to think about. Yes, thank you. Freeland, DK game logs are awful. Yes. Freeland pitched last night. Yes, thank you. Thank you, guys. There we are. But nonetheless, just throwing out there that let's see what happens. So fun to watch, but sketchy at best on pitching and hitting on both sides here. On both sides. Last 3 games, the Diamondbacks, the Padres. Let's talk Zach Godley. You and I were both like, how the heck is Godley so darn cheap? I've been poking around at that just a little bit, and if we look at his game logs, they've been not good. Now, granted, start in Coors. We'll wave that one off. Start in Houston, not facing a pitcher, went negative there. We'll wave that one off. And then a little shaky against Colorado at home. That looks like it's a little bit more of a walk issue than anything else. His walks have been up. His strikeouts have not. They're actually down. But 6,200 is a very delicious price point going against the Pod Squad. So I'm willing to forgive some of these past sins at this price, and I'm assuming a lot of other gamers will as well. What do you think the ownership levels will be for him on the 2 pitcher sides?
I think over 30 is pretty safe at this point. When you start talking about like the $10 tournament, that's usually pretty sharp ownership. A lot of really good guys MMEing that. So I would say 30 plus right now. I mean, you've got Matz down here. You've got a guy like Cahill. I'm sure Skaggs will get some ownership as well. But he's just like, he shouldn't be 6,200. I get the game logs have been bad. He's still getting 85, 90 pitches. The walks are the issue. And he's really frustrating at times. Like, he just cannot find the strike zone. So I wouldn't suggest watching him unless you see the first couple innings are going well. But it's really hard to avoid at this price against this Padres team that strikes out the most in the MLB against righties for the season. I mean, a bunch of guys with 25, 30% K rates against righties in this Padres lineup. It's just too good of a spot to avoid. The weather's good. The park is good for him. And the price is phenomenal.
So he's down $2,500 from the last time he was in this exact situation in the middle of August when we were all pushing everything into the middle of the table, thinking, Godley at 8,700 against these Padres, we've got to be there.
Yeah, take my money. Here you go. It's like,
Oops, he did have 100 pitches in that game, but he only ended up with 6 DraftKings points. He ended up with 6 earned runs. It was a bit of a mess, and he just looked bad for most of the game from that one. I kept watching, thinking it's okay. The quality start's still in play. It's okay. He'll get some strikeouts, and by the end you're like, all right, let's start researching for tomorrow.
Yep, exactly. That's the kind of guy he is sometimes. Like, when he's on, he is just unhittable, and when he's not, he's walking guys. He's just throwing pitches down the middle. He's hanging his curveball. It gets really bad even against bad teams.
All right, now let's talk bad pitchers. We have Mr. Nix going this evening. He has been sketchy. He has bounced around. I think he's been in and out of the majors. I saw him on FanGraphs. I thought he'd only been around for like 2 years, but he's been around for 6 or 7. So he's had a variety of cups of coffee here and there. But if we look at anything for Arizona, we're going to see a lot of green with them going against right-handed pitching. I mean, I've mentioned more than once my irrational love for Daniel Descalso. He's in the mix tonight. David Peralta, my highest owned player on DraftKings last year, according to their little preseason email. I love Eduardo Escobar on this squad. Goldie, we can't go away from Goldie. That's my kind of core 4. Pollock will be in there, but I will cap him a little bit just because he's been dealing with a bunch of injuries this season, and he had turned the corner. He was used to be a guy that just got lefties. Man, he was killing righty over the last season and a half. Those numbers don't really match up with his health status today. He's improved a little bit over the last few games, but God, he went like a month where he had a grand total of like 5 extra base hits. That's not what you want to see, and that's not what our projections are telling us. So just be cognizant of that. And then a cheapy punt, depending on who's in as their catcher, we could see Alex Vila in this one tonight. They've kind of got that 3-headed monster at catcher, but perhaps he'll get a shot this evening. So I really do like Arizona. I'm hoping people are like, oh yeah, it's Petco, not a great run total, yada yada yada. So Arizona is one of the spots where I'm going to make my stand this evening with my hitters.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I love them against Knicks. Knicks is like 6.6% swinging strike rate on the season. He's got a 44% hard contact rate. I mean, the guy just gets bombed and gives up a ton of line drives, all that good stuff. I mean, he's just not a good pitcher at all. So give me some Diamondbacks.
Do you know what he doesn't do, though?
What's that?
You know what he doesn't do? He doesn't walk anybody. Yeah. He's the reverse Astudillo. He's the pitching version.
That's exactly what you want, though, right? I mean,
no strikeouts, no walks. Yeah. Let's go, Arizona.
Balls in play all the time. It's a big park, but as I always say, doubles and runs scored do rack up points in a hurry as well. You don't always have to do it with the long ball. And this park isn't, I mean, it's a little bit overrated as a pitcher's park, I think, lately, the last few years. But these guys can hit the ball out if they get a hold of one. It's not like Goldschmidt and Peralta and Escobar are going to have trouble hitting home runs if they really get into one.
Yeah, and this is the funny part about San Diego. So two things have kind of affected it, because I'm one of those people, unless there's a dramatic change like Wrigley with the scoreboard and the buildings around it, etc., what's really going to change at a ballpark? Well, the two things combined to this. One, they sort of about 3 or 4 years ago have the institutional thing where in San Diego where they want to pitch, not necessarily pitch to contact, but they don't want their people nibbling. They just want to challenge the hitters. And we saw that back when they had Cashner and when they brought in the Uptons and Kemp, and then the wheels came off the wagon. But their home run rate skyrocketed. They also lowered the fences, and I forget if it was left field or right field, but they lowered it a little bit. And that's seemingly those two things combined have made enough of a difference. Well, that and probably global warming, but we won't get into politics. In any event, this is one of the ones where because think about that, Jake. If you say, well, it used to be a hitter's park and now it's not. Okay, the humidor, I get that. They did that in Coors Field, 20 years ago. They did it this year in in Arizona. That's a game change or a dramatic variable change. But really, what changed in San Diego for the last 30 years since they've had this stadium, or 25 years?
Right. Yeah. I agree. I mean, I don't know. It's just, I think the spot is just too good. Like, it's just a bad pitcher. It really is.
Yeah.
So I don't concern myself with the parks as much as probably the average DFS player. I just want balls in play. I want good hitters making contact, and that's what you're going to get here. So park factors aside, I think this is a really nice stack.
All right. Well, we've got two more games to go here. We'll hit on these. Jake and I like to talk a lot. We have fun. We do a little bit of meandering, but that's okay. We do this early enough where people can watch the whole thing. You can have this on in the background as you're making lineups here, and we're sort of taking the place of the Live Before Lock and the strategy show combined into one. So
yes.
We do have the luxury of meandering just a touch. And we've got some nice comments here in chat. They were saying, "Gosh, I didn't find these guys until the last 2 weeks of the season." Hey, I think this is our fourth Saturday show, so we haven't done too many.
We'll be back next year. Don't you worry. We'll be back.
Absolutely. But let's talk about the Athletics, the Angels. Tyler Skaggs back in our life. We've got Trevor Cahill here on the mound. Cahill, I don't think, is going to get more than 60 pitches for us. It's not like he's limited, but they still have a decent bullpen. They've got their fully expanded roster, and these guys, Oakland, I mean, they're going to New York to face the Yankees. So I can see this going one of two ways. Cahill, you're taking the pill for 5-6 innings, and we're saving our bullpen because we know we need everybody on that playoff game on Tuesday. Or they're saying, you know what, we'll rest our bullpen guys on Sunday, and we're still going to just mix and match here with this one. So not overly excited about the Angels. On the other side, Tyler Skaggs is someone I like. But I also like the Athletics, and here's why. Because they'll put their best guys out there with the platoon advantage, and they're one of the teams that does this dramatically, and they have a lot of guys that can hit lefties as well. So I'm liking Chapman, Lowry, Davis, Piscotty, Conha, and hey, if Matt Olson pops in the lineups, I'm not worried about that because he has solid lefty power. Last thing in the ballpark here. The Angels is a sneaky pitcher's park.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's a little less than neutral, but it's going to be cooler there. It's only 70 or 75 at first pitch. When we get to say the fun part, the marine layer. It's a thing that cooler air comes in for Seattle and for the LA teams, and it does make a difference. We see it a lot. That's one of the mega reasons that San Francisco AT&T Park is such a pitching park. It has to do with the weather. So that's one thing to keep in mind here. So another one I'm not really doing cartwheels over because I can't get a good read on this. Perhaps once lineups come out, we'll see something nice. But I do love Ohtani. Who can complain about Mike Trout? And then we've got, along with Logan Forsythe, we've got Cole Calhoun at 3,300 on DraftKings. Leading off, platoon advantage. Projections are going to love Cole Calhoun tonight. So be prepared. Mm-hmm. Be prepared. What do you got here for our second to last?
Yeah, I think projections are going to love the Angels overall. And Calhoun had been really bad. I mean, last night he had 2 doubles, so maybe he's turning things around. But you look at some of these game logs before, he's just really struggling to reach double digits in any game. And he continues to lead off and is super cheap. So he pops in optimizers no matter what. Cahill, I mean, the cool weather is definitely going to be helpful to Cahill here, the marine layer, as you mentioned. He should be higher than 6,800, I think, and I don't know if people will be on him. So I have interest just for that reason. I want to play him at low ownership. I don't want to play him at chalk. Some tough hitters in here, but you would also get leverage against what I expect to be a pretty chalky Angels stack, and I don't really like the Angels stack at all. I see the 5 implied run total, but Oakland's bullpen is awesome, and I think Cahill is a very good pitcher as well. So, just almost no interest in the stack as a whole. It's just going to be Trout, Ohtani, and maybe Jose Miguel Fernandez if I just need a cheap punt.
All right. Looping back to, there's a good question in chat. So we've got, this is from Darla Yoder. Would you consider being worried a little bit about Arizona if the San Diego bullpen is so good. Well, that's a great question. Context. San Diego didn't play on Thursday. Hey, everybody's probably rested. Aha! It was a 15-inning game last night. So let's see. They literally pitched 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 guys at least a dozen pitches. So the only guys that didn't go last night, now these guys can go 2 nights in a row, but the only guys that didn't go last night were Trey Wingardner, Matt Strom, and Kazuhito Makita. Now, I don't know much about Makita, and he hasn't pitched over the last 3 games, and that's all the farther back my range goes here. Bullpen, but all the other guys did. So I know Wingardner's in the mix, Strom's in the mix, and Castillo's in the mix. So they do have some okay fresh arms, but the majority of their people are going to be going on back-to-backs or 3 times in 4 days. So that kind of waters things down just a little bit for your fear there for Arizona. But that's definitely something you want to look at, because a lot of times where we say, middle of the season, oh, I'm going to go against Wade Miley, this is going to be awesome. Yeah, but the Brewers have an amazing bullpen.
Yeah.
So, you get to attack Miley, and if things go south, you get him for 4 innings, 5 or 6 runs, and then that's all she wrote, because they bring in the bullpen, especially when their offense, keeps the score up. I don't know what's going to happen against Godley. So perhaps they just, let one of the young guys be a swing man, or, what do we call it? A long reliever, and just get some experience if they're out of the game. If they're in the game, I don't know. They're at home, 2 games left in the season. Yeah, they're going to try their ass off. But I don't know. You can write little stories for anything, but just pointing it out, 8 of their guys went last night, at least a dozen pitches. So.
Yeah.
There we are.
Yeah, no, that was perfect breakdown. I was just going to say, a 15-inning game, you're not super worried about seeing the best bullpen arms for an extended time if they do get to Knicks, which we're expecting them to. So, not a huge issue.
All right, last game of the night, the Mariners. Boy, the Mariners went ham, I believe is what the kids say, last night, and knocked me down, damn it, between those guys and Brandon Crawford. I was in second, then I was in 5th in Yahoo for their 10 or their 5, whatever it was last night, their big Friday tournament. I ended up in 10th. Well, 10th only netted me $55. That's very sad. It's such a top-heavy tournament at the last part of the season, but that was fun nonetheless being up there. But I didn't have any Mariners, shockingly. The Mariners, my favorite team, grew up out there, went to their very first game back in 1977. Last time I get to say that this year. I like them tonight going against Adrian Sampson. I like them once again. We know they have a ton of righty power. We've got Haniger, Cruz. Those guys are phenomenal. Their lefties are solid with Cano. It falls off rapidly after that. If you want a cheap guy, do a little home run hunting. If he's in the lineup, Dan Vogelbach. This guy should be like, I don't know, a linebacker or something. He's like just his neck's like this wide. He's like a fire plug, I guess, but he's huge. Raw power, just using raw power. So I like those guys. I'm not going to play Paxton tonight. This is where I'm going with this one. I don't like how he's finishing the season. He's one of my favorite pitchers, but he can never stay healthy, be it various injuries. He just is coming off an illness that knocked him out for almost 2 weeks. I just don't like it. And you had mentioned, and I didn't ask what the count was, but you said you think they're somewhat limiting him this evening as well.
Yeah, let me try to find that. I thought it was maybe like 65 to 75. 85 pitches. Okay. Man, still don't know if you can use him. I'd much rather go with a Nola or a Kluber for that matter. Yeah. I don't think I'll get to Paxton. There's always something with him too. I just kind of have a mental block for playing him when he's going to be owned. So whatever, if he's going to be 5% owned, then okay, I'm fine taking a couple flyers on Paxton, but I don't think he'll be that low owned. So I'm just off of him here. I'm off of the Texas bats. I can't believe you didn't have Mariners last night against our buddy Martin Perez.
I know.
I was all over him.
Yeah, it was sad. It was sad. I went in on the Nationals.
Okay.
Oops.
Yeah, I mean,
I should have gone with the Mariners because so often I go by, I'm like, I'm writing the Mariners off. I'm done. If we look back here at Paxton, this will just be the third time he's pitched in 3 weeks. So, it's not great. He's gone. He went 71 in his last outing. Then he had missed a couple weeks, and he went 95 in those. He's a guy that I'm going to look to next year. I'm fully excited to see him fully healthy. But he's one of those guys, and, good God, what is he, 6'7" lefty, and what is one of the most unnatural throw motions for a human? To throw a ball 100 miles an hour. Okay, well, I'm going to guess somebody that's that giant that it's surprising that these guys don't get hurt more often. But he's someone I want to see back fully healthy. We'll totally be looking to him next year. I'm thrilled that he's on my team. Love that. Not tonight for me, though. Not tonight.
Yeah.
Not really fired up about the Texas Rangers either. A little cooler there. Paxton's still good. Is he 10,000 good on the pitch count? Probably not. But does Texas score more than 3 or 4 tonight? The argument would say perhaps they don't. So.
Yeah, I agree. Just not a great spot for Texas. Sampson, I don't mind targeting against him at all. These Mariners are going to have ownership just because, when you put up 12 runs and now you get another bad pitcher again, you're going to have ownership. And I understand it. I love Cano here. Cruz never should be 4,100. Just never against really anyone that's not Max Scherzer. Seager's cheap, Spin's cheap enough. I mean, it's just way too good of a stack to avoid. So I'm here on them. I expect them to be very popular.
All right. Vogelbach is 6 feet tall and 250.
Oh, it's a big boy.
Indeed. So yeah, fun with numbers. So perhaps not a linebacker, more of a fullback if we ever had fullbacks in football anymore. Oh, all right. Final thoughts here after our meandering show. I don't know that crunches are worth it, but if you want to do one, that's fine. It'd be a lot of speculation at this point.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth it, really. We have no clue what these lineups are going to look like. And we don't really have a ton of people in chat anyways, so.
All right. Here's one. Any salary savers at outfield or third base? We'll end on that one. That's a good question. I would say Astudillo. Let's see. He's 3,700, and on DraftKings he does have third base catcher eligibility. I prefer to use him at catcher, but he's one cheap guy I saw last night. And then for me, Daniel Descalso, second base, third base, but he's 3,900. He'll be, in my plans this evening for sure. Yeah. Outside of that, I don't know that there's really anybody else. It's going to depend on who's in the lineup. I hate that fun little trope, but very, very true. It's going to depend on who's in the lineup.
Here's one. I like Lewis Brinson a little bit against Mats.
Okay.
There are third base, outfield, Astudillo, I think that was a good call. And then there's another guy I'm thinking of right now, but I can't remember. Rhys Hoskins, that's a salary saver. So is Nelson Cruz, but those guys are, I think, fairly obvious. So, yeah, I mean.
Here's your sneaky guy, and we'll end on this one. $3,500, lefty matchup. He's solid against lefties.
Chu.
Shin-Soo Choo. Yeah. Yes, it is James Paxton, but 3,500. He's going to be batting leadoff or second probably. Throwing it out there. He should get the platoon advantage a little bit when the Mariners go to their bullpen.
Yeah, I don't mind that at all. Chu can definitely hit lefties. And we don't expect Paxton to be in the game that long anyways.
And Chalk Calhoun. We're just going to call him Chalk Calhoun.
Yeah, Chalk Calhoun. Yeah. I'll be under the field on him, as I usually am. What else? What do we have to promote here? What do we have to promote?
We've got projections behind the paywall. You're going to get I'm writing up one last player, and we're going to have the Sunday night primetime article. That's free for everybody. It won't be up at the top. It'll be on the main page, but we'll bump that up to the top once the 4 o'clock game's locked tomorrow, so you'll be able to get in on that one. I have written, I think, almost 2,000 words about Baltimore and Pittsburgh, so That's what I was doing last night instead of watching Kyle Freeland against the Nationals, whom I had stacked. So that's why I forgot Freeman pitched yesterday. But I put in a couple hours on this article. It should be a fun one. I'm buoyed by my results on the Thursday game after being saddened by the single game slates for week 3. Started off strong. Turned my $5 into 55. And I was just mucking around and trying some different lineup construction as I'm starting this. So here's the moral of the story. My best lineup won $45, got 5th in the $5,000, I don't know, whatever, the $1 3 max. If I had played that same lineup in the big $1 contest, I would have won $14.
Nice.
Play the smaller tournaments. You get a much better payout, and your, quote, 1% lineup really is a 1% lineup. In these giant ones, your 1% lineup really needs to be a 0.1% lineup to see the big bucks.
Yep.
So
I agree. Play the smaller entries, or the smaller contests with limited entries. I mean, just throw it in there at the very least, I would say.
Yes. Oh, and for full disclosure, for perspective, I know I played the lower stakes. But I'm playing about $700 a week for NFL. So even though I talk about the smaller contests, I still have a pretty decent volume out there. You can throw that out there because people have been, you don't play the big six. No, well, it's cash in play, right? Isn't that what we worry about? It's contest selection. I'm making, excuse me, I'm having a better ROI and playing about the same. So food for thought, guys.
No, you can get up in NFL especially. There's enough low dollar contests to get, if you want to get $1,000 in play and all under $3 entry fees, you could easily do that. They've got mini maxes. They've got the 20 maxes with $2. They got the 20 maxes with $3. I mean, it's just, there's so many contests. You can get a decent amount of volume in NFL. And I do too. I probably play too much compared to how actually good of an NFL player I am, because I'm garbage the first 3 weeks. So we'll see.
Yes. Good times ahead.
Yeah.
We got 14 more to get it back, Jake. Come on.
Yeah, we do. I got to remember that. So just looking at some of the articles we've got the Slant and Go, Chris Spags article. Check out the lineup builder for NFL. That is on the osmo.com homepage. You can just scroll over and see that on the top. Ownership projections for NFL, we've got all that. MLB ownership projections will be out as well. Rankings from Osmo. He has his Sunday Keys to Success. It's called the NFL Strategy Guide, and you can look at that. That's a premium article. We got On the Contrary week 4 with Evan Silva and Osmo, which is free somehow. Chris Spags hosted that very well. And then Three Fellas Talking Football from Thursday night with Ben Raza, Andrew Barron, and Laffy. So we got a lot of NFL content if that's what you came here for.
It's definitely the good stuff. And don't forget Jazz Raz, Ben Rasa. He plays high stakes. I'm trying to goad him into playing the. I don't think he said I was trying to get him to play the Thunderdome this week because I live vicariously through him. He said they don't have the Thunderdome, but he said there's a contest that's like $4,444 for week 4. It's some hybrid of the luxury box and the Thunderdome. But he said, I may get into that. We'll see how college football goes on Saturday, because that's he bets college football, college basketball, pro football, and pro basketball in addition to all his other stuff. So sharp dude. Yeah, sharp dude. And so you got him, you got Osmo, you got the ham and eggers like me and Josh and Jake and Spags. We keep the wheels turning here. You got your all-star analysts with Laffy and Adam and Fast Eddie Fear, and then you got your high volume guys. Oh yeah, the number 1 ranked player in all of the land, Alex Osmo Baker. It's fun here.
And a top 10 guy too, Tom JK.
Oh, yes, we forget about Tom.
He's just so
under
humble.
The radar there.
I know.
He's the best player in the world.
He's just awesome as well. So we got a good squad here, I think. All right, let's close it out. Thanks for joining us, guys. EMAC, thanks for joining again. Look forward to doing this come late March, early April on Saturdays again. Any last words for the people?
Have fun. DFS is all about having fun.
There we go.